Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gravely Amusing, the only horror history podcast that dances with the devil, the pale moonlight. You have dug up the podcast where one pop culture historian, and usually a horror loving guest or two, give you more than you need to know about a horror sci fi subject from history. I am your host, the man child of the macabre, Brian Peters, and today I have here with my brother from the multiverse, my Earth 2, Jonathan Kent Patrick.
Nice.
I mean, might as well.
Might as well. Might as well.
Might as well.
Can we give the people at home who are enjoying this fine recording that we have just a quick background that we were going to record just moments ago, and right as Brian hit record, the power went out in my house. Very weirdly, because there's no storms or nothing. And then it went out, came back, then went out again. And I immediately grabbed my laptop with a battery because my other computer takes so long to boot up. So we have just had technical problems upon technical problems trying to bring this delightful podcast to air.
Absolutely. We've been waiting for this episode a long time because we originally scheduled this for the 28th of September, but then a tree fell in my backyard because of hurricane winds. And so I was out with power for a while now. You were out with power. It's like the Joker is playing a trick on us. And that's our topic today, the Joker, specifically the legacy of the Joker. And I think it's better that we are doing this after Fondo a Douche. And because this latest Joker movie, very controversial.
Yeah, it is.
Which we're definitely going to get in here. So you want to get nuts? Come on, Tyler. Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts, man.
Today's topic is the Clown Prince of Crime, the Harley Quinn of Hate, the Ace of Nays, Mr. J, the Joker. Quite possibly the most iconic and greatest villain of all time. He's the first to have his own comic series. He's the first to have his own movie franchise. And he first appeared the same month as another iconic villain. And this villain beat him by only 2 weeks. Do you have an idea what that might be, Tyler?
Not at the moment. I was almost going to say Dr. Doom, but no, that's the times table doesn't work because my brain's
23
shifting.
years.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, my brain's shifting right here. I don't know. I can't think at the moment.
I think you know this villain very well.
Is it Two-Face?
It's Lex Mother Flippin' Luthor.
Okay. My brain was on Batman. I don't know why. But look,
it's all right.
I'm shifting over. I just had the paranoia of my power and just trying to get this podcast done. It's been a day, but let's do this.
I know, buddy. So, Tyler, where do you rank the Joker in your top 5 comic villains of all time? Is the Joker in the top 5? Is he in the top 3?
He's in the top 3. I think if I'm doing villains, okay, he's going to be number 1 because
for real.
Because the thing is, and not as there's been a story where he kind of was, but I'm all choppy. But the idea is that Joker is evil, pure. Where he goes, he's pure evil. He is a villain, and what he does, he's so crazy or whatever. He's not like trying to be a hero. He has no alternative motives. He's not this like Lex Luthor, Dr. Doom can be argued as being villains, but also anti-heroish because sometimes of what their actions are doing or their points of view. You can argue their points of view and their story of where they stand. But the Joker, you can't do that with. And if you try,
there's no negotiation with the Joker.
Yeah, like the Joker is evil, pure evil. That's just how it's going to be. Okay.
And I personally would have him no other way. So,
yeah, and we'll get into that concept as we move forward with things.
Absolutely. So, another real question for you, a hard question, Tyler.
Okay.
As of today, in October 2024, is the Joker still scary?
In comics?
Was he ever scary? And is he still scary?
I will say in comics, yeah. But in the regular mass media, I think we've taken that away. And we'll talk about that. And I say in comics because that Brave and the Bold that they recently did with Dawn of DC, if you start reading that, that is some dark, creepy Joker stuff. I mean, there were times that I was reading it and it goes not only with what the Joker was doing, but the way they drew him. And I mean, this is right now. So like this was in the last year, okay? Compared to, he was creepy when Bermejo and Azzarello did their Joker book, that Black Label book. Like that was a different take on the Joker, and that not really different, but like it was definitely more of a grizzled, scary Joker. And we've had other stories since then, but I would say in the comics, yes, there has been some times, and we're going to get into it, where they overused him. But recently, I feel like they haven't used him as much. And I mean by recently, within the past 2 years. So I think in the comics, it's been better. But yeah. What are your thoughts, Bry?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like the main question or theme that we're going for today. Like, has the Joker lost his mojo? Is the Joker overused?
I think part of it, and I'm gonna throw this out here now, is that every writer wants to have their Joker story. Every like person who gets on the Batman books, and we'll talk about some big time prolific writers, but they all talk about having their Joker story. And I think sometimes it just doesn't work because, and this can be said about comics in general, is they have a lot of good ideas. Instead of pacing themselves and doing the books to make them interesting, they start like, oh, well, we'll just do this as a side story. We'll do this as a crossover. We'll do this now. Boom, 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 boom. And they throw everything they have, and they're like, now what? We just used up 2 years worth of material in 6 months. I don't know. And I think that's a issue, I think, for a lot of things, period. But the Joker did kind of fall into that.
No, you're totally right. And like for this podcast, I've dissected everything that happened in the Joker year by year. I don't think I missed anything, but we're going to go all through it. But let's start where all good stories should start, with the end, and work our way back. So the most recent thing that has happened for the Joker is the Joker 2, filet à deux, filet of fish sandwich, fondue douche, whatever hell you want to call it. Now, when Todd Phillips announced this movie, when Warner Brothers announced the first movie, they said a few things, if you can remember.
Oh, I remember.
Because you're the Pepperidge Farm of this. You remember.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Because you and I talked about it a lot, and we dissected it. And my views on this have not changed. But go ahead, Bry. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Here for, buddy. But like they said specifically that Joker 2019, would not, and I repeat, would not tie into the Batman universe at all.
Correct.
They also said that this Joker is not your Joker.
Right. Correct.
That he could inspire the Joker
Correct.
Which we'll get to that in a few moments. But they said it wouldn't tie in any Batman universe at all. And we got Thomas and Martha Wayne killed in the movie. We got a young Bruce. We got an Alfred. We got the possibility that he could be, Bruce Wayne's older brother. And because they showed the murder scene of the Waynes and little Bruce, like I even believed that it's possible that they were just lying to us and feeding us BS, and that this was the origin story for Pattinson's Batman.
I said that to you. I asked you that question before the Batman came out. I remember I was like, do you think that they're going to do this? Because it was before the movie. And we were both like, I don't know, man. Because we were talking about how well the first Joker did. And
did over $1 billion. Won Joaquin, won him a damn Oscar.
Can we just throw out, though, real quick? I think other than Cesar Romero, every Joker that appears on film has either won an award before or after playing this character. Like they're all Academy Award winning actors.
We'll have to be sure because I don't think Barry Cogan or whatnot has won an award
I
yet.
don't know if he's won, but I know he was nominated, wasn't he? I'll double check. I'm
And
pretty sure he
Cameron
was,
Montague hasn't won one yet.
but on film, and he hasn't done the film version. You don't win
Oh yeah,
Oscars
yeah,
for
okay,
TV.
fair enough.
But keep talking.
I'm not sure. But the first movie was phenomenal. It was its own thing. Obviously, Joaquin was not Pattinson's Joker because we get Barry Cogan, or I'm probably butchering his name, but we get Barry at the end of that movie, and it was a phenomenal movie on mental illness and what one bad day can do. My wife even went to me and said, "Hey, I want to see that movie with you," and we went to see it, and she loved it. And for my wife to love a movie that has anything to do with comic books is interesting. But she said it was smart and it was just so well done, and it really was. But it wasn't the Joker that we knew, but it was an excellent, smart film. But then Joaquin got an Oscar for it. It did over $1 billion, and money always talks.
Oh yeah, money talks and bullshit walks.
You're damn right. And we end up getting, the sequel. And 2019 was intended to be a standalone film. I think Warner Brothers even attended it for launch DC Black, which would be a DC Comics based film studio, like an Elseworld studio. You and I even talked about the idea of them going into a Harvey Dent movie, and I said I would just call it Dent,
Yep.
and talk about the split personalities, which would be awesome. Like that could have been something good. And and when that first film ended, Joaquin told Phillips that he didn't feel ready to leave Arthur behind. And supposedly the sequel came about because Joaquin Phoenix had a dream of his character performing on stage, telling jokes and singing, and giving him the idea of a musical sequel.
But see, I don't, if that is true, I can believe that from Joaquin, because to me, Joaquin Phoenix doesn't feel like somebody who does projects or does things for the money. He just,
Yeah,
granted, he got paid a lot to do the sequel, but I
sure
don't
did.
see the money being his motive, because just looking at his track records of projects and what he's done and just things like, he's an interestingly odd dude, and he backs out of projects. And there was that one time he did that movie where he said he quit acting, was going to be a rapper, but it was all him in character to build up for this project, this movie. So I could be completely wrong, but he doesn't kind of seem like the type of performer and everything that would crave okay, I'll do it for the money as much as other people do. But I could be wrong. So,
Well, it was always pitched as a one and done.
mm-hmm.
In October 2019, they interviewed Joaquin again, and right when Joker 1 came out, and he said there's so much more I can do with this character. I see endless possibilities, and he was paid $20 million for his involvement in this movie, or in that movie. Yeah, I think $20 million for this, possibly too. And Phoenix and Phillips thought that it might be a good Broadway theater show, but they went and made this a movie. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he had, yeah, by February 2023, DC Studios, James Gunn confirmed that Folie or whatever would be a DC Elseworlds project, takes place outside the universe. But Todd Phillips had no connection, he had no meetings with Gunn about anything.
Right. Which
Um,
it makes sense, because let's be honest, Todd Phillips was never playing in the DC universe. He was just using the DC universe to get the movie that he wanted made by using an IP that he could sell.
mhm. And Todd Phillips had free reign with Warner Brothers, wanted him to do his thing, and the film had no test screenings.
Now that
None.
mm,
And Yeah, I believe that. Lady Gaga was signed on to be Harley Quinn or just Lee before the script was even finished. And I think my wife said it best about this movie. She said, "It's like they it's like they had this idea and then they hired Lady Gaga and then they're like, "Okay, what can she do? She can sing and she's not that horrible of an actress. Okay, let's just base this whole movie on her strengths and here we go. Let's make some money."
I mean, yes and no, because I feel like she is completely underutilized in this film. That is one of my biggest complaints because I don't know if you like want to get into a spoiler for it or now or like break it down or whatever, but I'll just hold my thought.
We'll get into it in a second. The other things about this, I want to talk about the disastrous details here. James Gunn had nothing to do with this movie. He gave notes to Todd Phillips for the movie. Todd did not use them. He didn't care. The film had a huge budget, $200 million, $20 million for Joaquin Phoenix, $12 million for Lady Gaga. The musical aspect, which when this movie was originally announced, they did tell us in like Entertainment Weekly, Variety, that it would have a musical aspect. But the general public doesn't always
They don't
read that.
follow. Yeah.
They
don't
don't follow
follow
it. They're not
like we
like
do.
us, like nerds like us, No, but like in all the marketing for this movie, they didn't imply it was a musical. Not one bit in this movie was implied as a musical. It was implied as a courtroom drama, adding Harley Quinn.
And there's the one part where you have him sing "For Once in My Life, There's Someone Who Needs Me," like real quick at the end of a trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no part of like, and I don't even really consider it a musical, to be honest with you. And that's because they're singing in it, but the songs don't really move the story forward. They kind of give you insight sometimes in the characters.
They had nothing to this story.
But they don't, and I'm not against it, but like a lot of the songs that they used weren't, I mean, songs that some of them you could think of, but they weren't common songs that everybody knows.
No.
It was mishandled.
Except the Carpenters song. Like, I didn't really know much of any of them.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I just feel like some of the songs I get, like, okay, this is in his head, which is fine because you're dealing with somebody who's mentally ill and delusional. So yeah, sure, that's fine. But then sometimes they were just like out of nowhere and I didn't feel like they were really expressing what he was dealing with or anything. They were just there.
It's just, yeah. Christopher Nolan reportedly changed the ending of the first movie because it ended with Phoenix's character carving a smile on himself. There was no resistance for the sequel with Nolan leaving Warner Brothers. Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during the opening weekend. The film is panned by critics currently and fans, holding, as of a few days ago, 33% critics score and 31% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Cinema Score has it as a D, a D minus, lowest ever for a comic book film. Yes, Madam Web's beating it. The Flash is beating it. The Marvels is beating it.
Yes, Flash.
You're right. Domestically, it opened with 37.8 million, which is lower than the comic book films like Morbius and The Marvels. It needs 450 million globally to break even. It could lose the studio well over $150 million. And not to mention, Warner Brothers Discovery is still $40 billion in debt. What the HE double hockey sticks is going on with this movie? And as of this moment, this movie has only made 165.3 million
Globally.
Global.
It's at a 5.3 on IMDb.
Yeah, buddy. It's not good. Okay, let's talk about this movie. Tyler, did you like this movie?
I don't hate it, and I don't really like it. I'm just kind of like, man, I'm meh. Like, in some ways I feel like retroactively it makes me not like the first one.
Ooh.
Not that I ever loved the
get
first
that.
one, Because like we have said before, when I saw the first movie, I came out and I said, this is not the real Joker. This is just a mental health movie. They slap some stuff on
Mhm.
to sell it. I'm like, all you have to do is change the names and nothing in this movie changes. You call him the clown. He's in New York City. You
Or
change
you call him
Thomas.
taxi driver,
You
you know?
Thomas Wayne's name's different, and Arkham State Hospital is just New York State Hospital. Like nothing in the story changes.
No.
And they did. I mean, they played with unreliable narrators. There wasn't even anything in it to where it's like there's a thing like much like in The Killing Joke, where he says, "Well, that's one way I remember things."
Okay.
That kind of
Okay.
alludes to stuff.
I'm glad
So
you said that. So, like, a big thing in the first movie is the clock.
yes,
The clock's the biggest thing. So, if you guys go and watch the movie again, the first movie, in the movie, when he's being interviewed by the the caseworker, and when he's in the nut house and he's sitting there being interviewed by a caseworker there too, and when he punches out and he beats the clock when he loses his job, it's always the same time,
hmm
which is like 11 something or something like that. It's always the same time. So it's kind of implying at the end of the movie that he just made up this whole story.
yeah, that for
Eh,
it's possible that everything we've seen is in his mind
Yes.
because there is that one smash cut of him in all white banging his head against the door.
Yep. Not to mention, at the end of that first movie, he kills the caseworker. And
And
then
that
he,
and that was one thing I was waiting to see in this.
yep,
So we assume he kills this caseworker because he walks out with the bloody footprints. Okay.
yep,
That altercation would ever happen in there is never referenced in the second movie.
never at all.
So the whole time I'm watching this, I'm kind of waiting for the end to happen and them reference like almost they tack on more of that ending at the end of Joker 2, really
Yeah,
stapling that the whole thing is in his head.
yes. And like, dang, I lost my train of thought. And then like also in the movie, in the second movie, like they just keep saying he killed 5 people, and I keep going to my wife, he killed 6, he killed 6, because of his mom.
And then he
And I'm like,
admits I
he
killed
admits it,
6.
yeah.
Yeah, he so at least that was like okay, cool. But
But where this movie should have been like a courtroom drama, and it should have been more serious. Like if you take out all the musical stuff and you just have the courtroom drama and Lady Gaga's character being obsessed with this delusion that he has, this Joker delusion, I think you have an okay movie. I think it's okay. I really think that the musical scenes and the musical edition really hurt this movie because I like, and I'm not stupid. It's not that I don't get it. I don't understand the artistic stuff or whatever garbage. No, or I understand the psychological part of it very much. It was supposed to be this is all a show,
mhm.
and in the scene where Gaga or Lee whatever shoots Joker in the thing in his head and says, "Let's give them what they want," and then they kill him. It's just it's this movie could have been so much better. It could have been so much more.
Yeah,
And like, I mean, we had Harvey Dent in it.
to me, Harvey Dent in this movie is this throwaway character, much like Thomas Wayne was in the first movie. It was the same kind of story character beats
Yeah.
of just being the name that could be replaced with anybody because we don't really get to the character. And I'm like,
Yeah,
if
like
you're gonna do that, then why not put more characters like that in the movie?
why didn't they
You
have Jack
know,
Ryder be the guy that interviewed him? Like
That's what I'm talking about. If you're just gonna throw
yeah,
away names, put Hugo Strange as the doctor in Arkham. Like if they call him up when they have the one person who evaluated him, make it Hugo Strange. Let's pepper the whole thing with character names. If you're just gonna throw away anything with this movie.
it's just yeah. So So basically, just running through the movie real quick, it's his trial. He can be sentenced to murder or jail. His defending attorney basically says we want to be like you have split personality, and the Joker was a whole different entity that your brain turned on, and the Joker killed these people. Arthur didn't kill these people. And then we see the introduction of Harley, Harley Quinzel, who they just call Lee, and it's Lady Gaga. And personally, when she put the gun to her head, I thought that it was going to be that Harley Quinn was all in his head, just like the other girl was, or the whole relationship was. I thought that that's what it was going to be that they were alluding to. And they mentioned that in the trial, like how he has delusions of relationships with women. So, I thought they were going to go that route. They didn't. Lee, the Harley Quinn character, she's obsessed with the Joker and she's obsessed with that chaos. And we get to the trial at the end, and he defends himself as Joker. But when he hears the testimony of Gary, the little person from the first movie that witnessed him killing Randall, he feels bad. He feels guilty that he traumatized Gary, that he kind of ruined Gary's life. And he admits that Joker's an illusion and he doesn't exist. And he's just Arthur. And he killed these people because, they were horrible to him. And then, Lady Gaga stands up and earlier in the movie, she said that she was pregnant and stuff and all that. and then an explosion happens. We see like a little bit of Harvey Dent's face kind of burned a bit, alluding to Two-Face. If they're going to go that way, I don't know. And he gets captured again, but then near that movie, and then he gets stabbed to death at the end of the movie. And the person that stabs him slits his mouth like Heath Ledger Joker and laughs, implying that he inspired the Joker all along, which is what they said in the very beginning. It's nothing surprising. But Tyler, being an intellectual that you are, you and I both know he can't inspire Heath Ledger's Joker.
Well, it's not Heath Ledger's Joker. It's just the Joker. The whole cut smile wasn't a thing until Heath Ledger's Joker.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's just kind of a big finger at everybody. It's not like they're saying straight up like he's, inspiring Heath Ledger's Joker. It's just he's inspiring, quote unquote, the real Joker to come in and take thing. Now, Brian, you're an intelligent dude.
I sure am. At least I pretend to be.
And I'm going to throw this out to you.
Yeah.
In the film, we see when they're in prison, Arthur's watching a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what cartoon he's watching?
Wasn't like, well, when they're talking about Gaga or Gaga's talking to him, wasn't he watching like Pepe Le Pew?
Yes. There's 2 times they're watching Pepe Le Pew. Now, Brian, what is Pepe Le Pew about?
Well, Pepe Le Pew is about a skunk that kind of lives in a fantasy that thinks that he's kind of like attractive and women like him. And he grabs any female cat and he's like, "Oh, I love you." And yeah.
But Pepe Le Pew is a skunk that's attracted to a cat that got painted to look like a skunk.
Yes, that's not really a skunk.
So if you think about it, Lee is the skunk, is Pepe, while Arthur is the cat pretending to be something he's really not.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at you noticing these things. Look at you, boy.
Well, I was, my biggest gripe with the film is the use of Harley.
Yeah.
Because one, you're going to tell us this isn't the real Joker. Okay. That's fine. I've been fine with that the whole time.
That's totally fine. We got it from the get-go.
And then you're going to bring in the Joker's biggest, secondary character. Okay. So now you're saying something else. You're going to change her story. Okay. All right. I'm like, this is their version in this universe. Fine. But I was fine with everything until you find out in the courtroom, she has basically been lying to Arthur the whole time. She checked herself in, she came from money and that she has her master's in psychology. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I feel like you're trying to root her back to being the comic book character, but it's not working for me because now
You've already ruined her. You've already ruined her. You can't go back.
because now I'm thinking, well, now
There ain't no going back. There ain't no going back.
Now you're making her more of an interesting character. And then Jania at one point looked over at me and I had the same thought. And Jania asked me, do you think she's a plant? And I was like, you know what? That would make more sense because there's a lot of things that happen that I feel like she was the one manipulating everything in the background. And I'll break it down for you. Number one, well, okay, so we'll go with she is intelligent. She's a psychologist and she has money. Okay. So it's easy to think that she put herself there as a patient to get close to Arthur, who she never refers to as Arthur, only as Joker.
Correct.
Next, if you notice the scene where Arthur looks at his medication, he looks down at it. This is the second time he's taking his morning pills. He looks down at it, then he kind of looks up at the nurse, and you can't see her face. And he looks and then he kind of smiles and he takes the medicine. So that implies that he's not taking his medicine. Like those aren't the right pills or those are fake pills. Because later he says, I stopped taking my medicine to Harley.
Yep.
So it could be implying that she was able to pay off the nurse because we know this is Gotham. Everyone's corrupt and bribery is easy. Okay.
Sure.
So because Arthur, when he meets her and if he's not taking his medicine, he's starting to slip back to the Arthur that we knew from the first film. Next up, you have the courtroom where it is wall to wall packed. People are trying to get in, but somehow she's able to get in.
Every time.
And granted, the first time she gets in, there's people standing against the wall, but there's one seat left. And she sits down in the back. And then she's able to move closer to the front.
Yep.
Okay.
Doctor, go ahead, Dr. Patrick.
So I'm like sitting there like, okay, there's more going on with her character than what we're seeing. And then, so this is why her character in this makes me the most angry is when there's a couple of scenes where there's a line drop where she is living in Arthur's old apartment. Okay. And after the courtroom, she leaves, goes home, and we see her like with the gun to her head, and then it cuts. Okay.
Near the end of the movie.
Yeah. And then we see her standing on the stairs where Arthur had danced in the first film with her hair cut short, her makeup slightly altered than when it was, and in a different costume.
I wanted to talk to you about that too. So I'm glad we are.
Okay.
I think she did kill herself. And this is the illusion that everything's okay that he's
Phillips has actually said that that's real. It's her there.
Okay.
My thought process, okay, because there's a scene that was cut out of her in the elevator, there was a scene where she cut her hair, donned her makeup, and was basically recreating the same scene that Arthur did when he became Joker going to the Maury show. Because the original ending was supposed to be Harley killing Arthur on those stairs, and then she sings That's Entertainment and dances on the stairs.
No, I didn't know. I didn't read that part.
And that's what I tried to send you the other day about. I was like, I'm reading about the alternate ending. And there's little footage that was behind the scenes that was caught of her singing and dancing, doing that. And it's all with that hair.
I think that might be a better ending.
I think it's a much better ending. The idea that Arthur rejected Joker, so she became the Joker that she wanted. Okay.
That's a better ending for me.
Because there's this talk about that there was a made-for-TV film of Arthur's story. So some
was it good? Was it good?
I don't know. I didn't see it. So some of the like the gun to the head and stuff like that, I could see Arthur telling somebody all of the details to get his story, to get that attention for someone to write a book that they made into a movie, so that she would have an idea of the things that Arthur did because she's seen that movie, which she said she saw 20 times, but it was more like 5. And I thought that maybe we would see a scene of that movie kind of like in more of a serious tone, but much like in Scream 2, when we see the clips from Stab and you have this kind of movie within a movie, that we would see these kind of like the portray almost like a caricature of Arthur in this phony film that would make him mad because he sees they're taking his serious story of who he is and have made him a joke, like, and not in the way that he wants to be. So I kind of thought that her killing Arthur was much like what Arthur killing Murray was. But then,
I think I would have liked that ending.
but it didn't happen, and we never the unreliable narrator element of this is just the delusions of the musical. There's other scenes that we could probably argue and stuff about, but at the same time, there's not evidence either way. Like her coming into him being stuck in solitary confinement. Well, if she's paid off, and if my theory about her working stuff behind the scenes, it'd be very easy for her to slip money to the guard to get in there.
Yeah, I like a better story of Harley being the one manipulating events. I like that better.
If we're gonna, think about this year, bud. We had Harley reinvented for Batman, the Cape Crusader.
Mm-hmm.
We have
I like that Harley. I thought that Harley was decent.
The final season of the Harley Quinn show, and we have this movie coming out. So we have like 3 distinctive different kinds of Harleys. And if you had done that, you wouldn't be too far off from the character where she is kind of in this role where she is more of the Joker. If we're not going to really be comic book sound, okay?
Sure.
Let's make a better story. And that's my issue. If we're not beholding to any comic books and you're like okay with just changing things, then change it and make an interesting story. Make it her that actually makes him crazy. Where in the film that we're watching, she's more of the real Joker and he's more of the Harley, where he's, in love with her and she's more. Yeah, exactly. Flip it and do it that way.
That would have been good. Like, cause he doesn't want to be the Joker. He wants to be happy. He doesn't want to have, like, he's like the best line in the first movie is like, all I have are negative thoughts. And if that would have been a better movie. It's like,
I swear the pieces are there. It's seated.
Yeah,
and that's why I said they didn't do anything with Gaga. Like, she has a couple scenes and like what she does with them, she's good. But then they just don't do enough with her character to make it that interesting.
Yeah, it was a waste. Like, Gaga could have pulled off something special. She really could have. And like, I don't know. We could talk probably more hours about this, but
we could.
But okay, is this movie better than Madame Web?
No.
Because
I will say this on the positive side, the movie was shot beautifully. It looks beautiful. And if we were to go in and break it down scene by scene, there are good scenes.
There are good scenes in this.
But a good scene connected to a good scene connected to a good scene doesn't make a good movie.
No. Like, Jen started playing on her phone pretty quick. And I just kept looking at my watch and I was like, okay, I know how long this movie is. How much longer? Like, this is rough.
How many people were in your theater with you?
We went on Friday night, which was opening night at like the 6 o'clock show, 6:30 show.
So you saw it exactly 24 hours after Jania and I. So we'll be able to compare that idea.
Yep. And in my theater, there were about maybe 20 people, if that.
Okay.
Maybe.
So including me and Jania in our showing, there were 4. There was me and Jania and then another older couple.
On Thursday nights, there's always less.
Yes.
Like, because people aren't thinking about it. They're thinking about Friday, but still.
So just to get an idea, that's who. And at one point, Jania leans over and goes, "I'm kind of bored." And I'm like,
Jen said the same thing to me.
and I'm like, given the movie we have, we could easily cut probably 15 to 20 minutes out of it by just cutting some unnecessary stuff, cutting some scenes down, and have a little bit of a tighter film.
Yeah.
Because, at the end, a lot of people say, what was it all for? Well, I think it's all for is the story of a guy who,
It's all
struggled
for
to
money.
find I mean, yeah, of course, but like he struggled to find himself. He had a mental illness, and because of that, he inspired insanity in others and started kind of a movement without realizing it. I don't, I, you know, it definitely makes it more interesting if you watch the two films back to back. I think because then you have quote unquote the whole story. But I think the first film was much tighter.
Mhm.
Like it had a clearer vision, and the way that first movie ends with like him in the cell doesn't make sense because I feel like in a trial, like we see little news blips, right?
Mhm.
There should have been something like Arthur Fleck, the man responsible for inciting all these riots that led to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, prominent figures of Gotham. No, we don't get any reference to the Wayne other than the pan shot of a building that says Wayne.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I totally didn't think about that. They didn't mention the Wayne's death at all.
And you know what I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
just like, and once again, they even said Gotham City located in the state of New York. And that's like one thing like they never really talk about in the comics is where certain stuff is like that, you know? But
Yeah. So, okay, so Madam Web's better. Is Steel better?
probably because I'll have my childhood wonder. Like we're about to rewatch that here soon. Well, I'm about to rewatch. I'm gonna watch it with Solomon for the first time. Probably just because I'll be like, I remember being a kid and seeing this in the theater. Like,
Is Catwoman better?
Jania, can you hear me? Was Catwoman better than Joker 2?
The answer is yes. Catwoman is better.
She said it was more entertaining.
Catwoman's more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And the definitive answer: will you be purchasing this movie on physical media to your collection?
I think I will, but I'll wait till it's like discounted, where it's like the $5 DVD. I won't be buying like the 4K because I would like to watch it again
Yeah.
because I would like to watch it sitting with Jania and like go through it and do a commentary and talk about the scenes because there is some artisticness with the directing, but then like really analyzing some things to it and break it down like what was working, what wasn't working, where did the movie actually lose us, what was the turn that really just made it go like where was it that I checked out or where was it that it lost us? And but I mean I'm not gonna rush out like and buy it when it comes out right away, but like I wouldn't mind having a DVD copy just to like pull out and be like, okay, here's an example of well shot, well acted film, but not a good movie.
Yeah. It's just not good. I don't think I will be adding it to my collection. I think I'm gonna pass on this one.
That's fine. You can just rip it.
Maybe. Thank you for joining us on this epic 3-part Joker episode. If you like this podcast and want to know more horror history, hit the follow button on your podcast player. Search for us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X under Gravely Amusing. And make sure you hit like and subscribe to keep these lanterns lit in this graveyard. And make sure you tell your friends. I hope this podcast thrilled you. I hope it shocked you. And if nothing else, I hope it left you gravely amused.